Hello, I'm Karen Chabot, and I would like to share with you my findings on the Idaho murders. What I found looking into Bryan Kohberger's chart, I'm an astrologer, a Vedic astrologer, as well as I read the language, the hidden secret language behind the playing cards. The playing cards are actually a mystical calendar, and each of the cards have a solar value. They actually work mathematically. Everything in the card system is coherent and extremely accurate and predictable. So I've been doing this about 18, maybe 20 years by now. And I have found that these four victims, so far, I don't know anything, no details. I really don't know the story. I don't think anyone knows the story right now because he is on his way back to Idaho, and he is currently, according to DNA, a suspect. So he is claiming that he's innocent. So I would like to prove that he's not innocent, because after the research I did, to me, unless there's another person that was the murderer that was born on November 21st, 1994, then it was probably Bryan. And it just seems strange that it would be, right? Because he's a law student, a criminal justice student with a master's degree, very intelligent. Why would someone like this do that? Well, according to this system, there are archetypes, and the birthdays that belong to the royal family, like the queens, the kings, and the jacks, can tend to be, there's a proclivity for sociopathic behavior. They're highly intelligent. If you ever read, there's a great book called The Sociopath Next Door. I'm no expert on a sociopath, but I did read that book, and the bullet points in the very beginning of the book sum it all up. They are usually pillars of society, highly intelligent, and in some cases have that holier than thou complex. Now, this birthday that Bryan was born on, November 21st, is actually the last day of the Scorpionic season. So the Scorpio season is represented by the actual Scorpio, this animal with a stinger, and it's at the tail end. And that stinger, in my opinion, will be most potent on the very last day of its cycle, which would be November 21st. And that's the day that Bryan Kohberger was born. That day, according to the card system, he was born as a Queen of Hearts, which has a solar value of 12. He has an inner self, or they call a planetary ruling card, of the 5 of clubs, which is solar value 18. And he has another planetary ruling card that is the King of Spade, solar value 52. Now, 52, there's only 52 cards in the deck. So this number 52, this King of Spades card, embodies all the cards. Anyone born as a King of Spades in any position, could be ruling, could be natal, could be a decanate ruling, could be any of the layers within the system, gives rise to someone who can understand everything very quickly because they embody every card in the entire system. So this gives rise to intelligence, brilliance, actually genius. So he has the Queen of Hearts, which is royal, and he has the King of Spades, which is royal, and then he's got the 5 of Clubs, which is it has a interesting Venus card to it, a Venus component to it that is secret and hidden. It's the Ace of Spades. So anybody with the 5 of Clubs will tend to have a life chart that likes to have hidden secret affairs. So he has a proclivity tendency to like to do secret things on the romantic side of things. And he has a decanate ruler, if I remember. I'm going to show you my system here, of the 6 of Spade, which is the card of fate. And when it goes upside down, it is the 9 of Spades, and often the 6s and 9s go upside down. And that 9 of Spades represents many things. Endings, can be death, and it can also be about letting go. So the 6 actually, it belongs to what I call the black hole in the template of the chart. And here's the template. I'll just show you quickly. It's a tiny little version of the template, but I've circled the 2 exit points or portals or gateways, we call them. And they are circled here, 6 and 9 of spades, and then 6 and 2 of spades. Those are places in the system that are exits and portals to the other side. Also can bring in hidden mysteries, things that are unseen. So he has a bit of the unseen as the 6 of spades, which is a solar value of 45 in his personality layer. So now that we have all these layers around Bryan with all the numbers, solar values, tracking, we can go forward and look at the other victims to see how did he express in their chart. So how did he express? Well, it looks like of all the 4 victims, it was Kaylee that was the one that was most connected to Bryan. I'm guessing that by looking at Kaylee's chart, I'll show yours Kaylee's chart right here. She was born on June 8th, 2001. And I was looking around. Well, first I'll just go right to the day of the murder, November 13th, 2022. And it was a Mars day for Kaylee. There's the Mars icon, and here's the Queen of Hearts, which is Bryan's natal card. And then underneath it is the 5 of Hearts. And that card indicates a separation, a divorce, and a big disappointment, feelings of division. So with that being in Mars, Mars governs the knife. Remember, it governs weapons and, the war, any war. Mars is the planet of war. So for her to have been killed on a Mars day, the other victims were also killed, one of them on a Mars day too. This was Madison. She was killed on a Mars day by a Jack of Hearts. Now, I don't know if any of these other victims had ever met Bryan, but I do believe that Kaylee had met Bryan. I don't know how. Was it online? Was it at a bar? Was it somewhere local? I really don't know, but I can tell you that when I go backwards in Kaylee's chart, you can see there's the Queen of Hearts in Jupiter on November 7th. And that's Bryan's card. So, we could say, well, could be any Queen of Hearts, anybody born on a Queen of Hearts day. But we look at the top row here, the King of Diamonds is in Pluto, and it's in the black hole 9-6. And Kaylee starts her week off. This is a weekly layer, and all the planets are in the week because there are 7 days in a week and 7 major planets, each of them governing a day. And this Ace of Spades is the card of the deck, the whole deck, and it governs the mysteries between life and death and the hidden secrets. So she was in sort of a secret time frame in the week before she was murdered. And this queen could be Bryan. Now, the Pluto King of Diamonds, interestingly enough, this is a King of Diamonds. So he was a King of Spades. Don't forget, he has a ruling card, King of Spades, and she may have seen him as the king. The king may have expressed when she met him. Everybody perceives people differently. Of all the layers that Bryan has, 4 layers, she may have perceived him as his king layer. And the suits are interchangeable. Suits are the personality. Suits are the flavor. And they tell us a lot about how the person feels. And the King of Diamonds belongs to what how do I explain this? It's part of the trine of deception within the template of the earth spread in the cards, that template I showed you where there were 2 exit points. There's a trine in that template, and there are 3 cards that make a perfect triangle, and they're all one-eyed. They all look at you through one eye. They are not looking at you with 2 eyes. In other words, they're not honest. That's why I call it the trine of deception. So the King of Diamonds is in the trine of deception and sitting in her Pluto, and Pluto is a higher octave of Mars. So there was some deception going on around a king, and it was very hidden because it's in the black hole, very, very hidden, obscured. And then the result card, which tells us all about how did she handle her adversities of the week, because Pluto represents what is the adversity of the week. How will I overcome it? When we look to the result card, and it's the Queen of Spades. So the Queen of Spades can also be Bryan, because the kings and the queens are interchangeable, often will show up, even if it's a queen person, queen man, it'll show up as a king of hearts because it was a male. So we can't always 100% say just because he's a king of spades that he doesn't express as the Queen of Spades. It's the number 51. 52 is the King of Spades. Now he is a Queen of Hearts natal card. So he has queen energy and king energy, which gives him this androgynous, sort of mysterious, non-gendery kind of way of being. And maybe nobody would know this about him, but I can see it. Maybe people who are close to him would be able to agree with that. Anyways, with that Queen of Spades as the result card, we look to the last day of her week, which was the week before she was murdered, with her 3 friends. She has the Death card, which is also the card of the deck, which represents the mysteries and secrets between life and death. It's also known as a portal, a black hole as well, right there in Neptune. Neptune also governs deceit. And the 8 of Spades, interestingly enough, has a solar value of 47. 47, interestingly enough, is the composite score when you add Bryan, Queen of Hearts, solar value 12, to Kaylee's 9 of Diamonds, solar value 35, and then you subtract 52, you get, oh, actually, we don't have to subtract 52. You just, in that case, you just get right to the 8 of Spades from there. The 12 plus the 35 comes to the 47. And that's the 8 of Spades. And you can see that it's signified here in the chart, 8 of Spades, 47. So their togetherness, we call the composite or the we card, is 8 of Spades. So I'm guessing here that this was all started between Bryan and Kaylee, and then it expanded from there. And the other people were involved somehow. I don't know exactly how, but obviously he wanted to kill them all. But I think the main player here is Kaylee, and I believe Bryan was the one. He may have killed her first. I don't know. But when I look at the day before this death card on November 9th, there's a 6 of Hearts. The 6 of Hearts vibrates to the Jack of Spades, which is the part of the trine of deception. And it's the one-eyed thief, the white collar thief that doesn't get caught very easily. And underneath it is, guess who? The King of Spades. So there it is. If we look at Bryan's planetary ruler, his second one, he has the King of Spades right here. Remember, he has 4 layers: the Queen of Hearts, the King of Spades, the 5 of Clubs, and his decanate ruler, decanate meaning a Latin word, meaning it represents the division of the sun, and it goes in 10 degrees. So I checked out the division of his sun, where his sun was, his natal sun, and it came up with the decanate ruler of number 45, the 6 of Spades. Okay, so now we have possibly that could be his decanate ruler, 6 of Hearts, because she might have hearted him, took the spades off him, as well as it is vibrating to the frequency of a number 50, which is Jack of Spades, part of the trine of deception. So it all started here. We see in Jupiter, she met him here. Or maybe she met him sooner. She might have met him a little sooner, but she was looking to fall in love. She had Ace of Hearts, which is an open heart. And she wanted to meet someone and fall in love that week. And then the Ace of Hearts goes to the lesson, which is superimposed over the planet Saturn. And whenever you have 6s and 7s in any location, it's not good. It's very challenging. You've heard the expression in England, oh, she's all 6s and 7s. She's all crazy like that. So the 6s and 7s don't indicate much luck in her Saturn. And Saturn is this finger, which is very black and white, very letter of the law. And it's usually the hardest day of everyone's week. So she's got 6s and 7s and the blue hole, 6 of Spades, two of spades. Now the six of spades is his declinate ruler, don't forget. And the six of spades, two of spades is sort of a dysfunctional, it represents dysfunction in altered states. Could have been that she met him and they were drinking or drugs or a strange, unusual dynamic where the exchange of energy wasn't fair. Somebody was deluding someone. So let's continue on. I want to show you, oh, the King of Spades is also here. So it's just really evident, the King of Spades, which is him. I'm looking in Kaylee's astral body. This is her emotional body. I'm reading how she felt the week before she was killed to see how far back does Bryan go. And I didn't spend hours looking to see if she'd met him even sooner or in the week before that and the week before that. I just went the week before it. So I'm only giving you information according to what I researched. So there is a King of Spades here. There's a Queen of Spades here, and a lot of deception, cards of deception in the black hole here. And the Jack of Spades was in her Ace of Hearts. So she fell in love with someone in the trine of deception, the Jack of Spades, which is one of the cards of deception. Okay, now let's go to her planetary ruler. And you can see right here in Neptune, so her planetary ruler, back up, is the Seven of Spades. So she doesn't get two rulers. She only gets one ruler because she's not born in the season of Scorpio. People born in the season of Scorpio get two. Bryan was born in Scorpio season, he gets two. So Kaylee has the Seven of Spades in herself, and I'm looking at her inner self, and here she fell in love with a King of Spades because this is the Ace of Hearts. New love, new beginning of love. And there's a Jack of Spades under that, which is, again, deceptive love. And if we look a little closer, her Saturn is also an Ace of Hearts. So I believe she really liked this guy, or at least she thought she did. She liked the, you know, the facade that he might have put up. Now let's look, we can see him all over her chart this week in her inner self. Here's his declinate ruler, Six of Spades with an Ace of Hearts. She fell in love with this guy. And it started off her week in the blue hole, which meant she was slightly off that week, maybe not feeling 100%. And then there's a Two of Hearts, which is two hearts beating as one. She might have felt very connected to him. Two hearts beating as one is the soulmate card. And then if we look at the moon, that which nourishes you, it's the Queen of Hearts, which is Bryan. Now, if we look at Venus, there's a secret with the Five of Hearts. And that Five of Hearts can mean travel. It might mean that if she was to be with him, she would have to travel. I know he was caught in Pennsylvania, so maybe he talked about that, and she knew she might have to take trips to Pennsylvania to keep this relationship alive. Okay, now we look over here and we add these two cards up. It's a Jack of Spade, which is the one-eyed white-collar thief in Mercury for the week. And the secret card in Venus with the Eight of Spades, which is their composite card between Bryan and Kaylee. And the Five of Hearts, again, is that card that's the wind between hearts in Venus. And it can be very disappointing when it's in a malefic cycle, like a Mars cycle or a Saturn cycle. Now we're looking at the King of Diamonds in Mars, which governs men. And she's seeing him as a very wealthy person. So this is her perception. So he may not have been wealthy, I have no idea. But she was perceiving him as the King of Diamonds, which is one of the wealthiest cards in the deck, most powerful. And it's in the black hole, meaning she's keeping him secret, or there is a secret about him that she's keeping. There's something a little bit nebulous that we can't put our fingers on. She may not have been able to put her finger on it either, but she knew she liked him and she wasn't sure who she would tell. Or if it was a secret between the four of them, maybe. I don't know that. I'd have to look at all of their cards for more secrets, but I looked pretty good through the other three victims and I didn't see as much of a connection as I saw with Kaylee. So I do believe she was the instigator, not that she did this on purpose or deserved it in any way whatsoever, but I believe he really liked her and she must have really pissed him off. That's what I'm guessing. So looking at Jupiter, the Queen of Spades is there. And he is Queen of Spades because he's also the King of Spades with a Queen of Hearts. So there's a lot of interchanging cards going on here, because he's quite androgynous, don't forget. And the Four of Hearts is under that deceptive King of Diamonds, because the Four of Hearts is a marriage card. Doesn't necessarily mean sign on the dotted line and it's a contract, but it means a relationship. So she felt like this was someone she could be in a relationship with, or maybe she even was already, because I didn't go the week before, I didn't go into anything prior than the week before she got killed. So I wanted to see what this was like here before I made any assumptions. And when I first saw his birthday, I thought, that's a killer birthday, potentially. Now, if you have a birthday on that day, doesn't mean that you're a killer. It just means there's a lot of other factors that have to be in play, like exactly what time of day you were born and how were you raised. Were you raised with other sociopaths? Parents sometimes give birth to other sociopaths, and then that child doesn't really stand much of a chance because they were never taught what was right, what was wrong. They were just taught how not to get caught. And that's how to groom a sociopath. I don't know how, I don't know much about the parents. I didn't get their birthdays. I don't know, but I'm just giving you first impressions on the birthday. With me was, yeah, this is worth exploring. This is why I decided to take the time to research this. Now, if we go a little further into the week that she was killed, okay, here we are. The week she was killed, that King of Diamonds that was in Pluto the week before, remember that King of Diamonds in the black hole? The karma card, the unfavorable karma card to that King of Diamonds, because each card gets an unfavorable karma card assigned to it and a favorable karma card. The unfavorable karma card is the Three of Clubs. So now it goes to Pluto. So suddenly she's seeing him differently. She's seeing him karmically. And looking at the day, we already went over that. There is the king, the Queen of Hearts. And there was a little bit of a breakup of some sort, because in Venus, she had a Seven of Diamonds, which is vibrating to the Nine of Hearts. And it's also the twin card to the Nine of Hearts, which represents an end. So maybe she had to break it off with him. I don't know. Yeah, I'm just guessing there was a falling out, which may have been why he wanted to kill her. I don't know. I can only assume when I'm looking at this. Now, I'm going to look at the other cards. I mean, you can see all the way through here. The Jack of Hearts is the other part of the trine of deception. And on the 14th, the day after she died, her soul was probably lost and still aware of what was going on and trying to figure it all out. And she may have perceived him, the Queen of Hearts, as the Jack of Hearts, because the Jack is the more immature, can be the child of the deck, really. And with a Nine of Spades, it's an ending. So she realized who did it. Maybe she didn't know at the time, because maybe he had a mask on, and who knows if she knew it was him that was killing her, but she was well aware after she left her body and was lost what was going on. So now I'd like to say a little prayer and shout out to Kaylee. I hope you are happily in one of the most beautiful places in heaven and surrounded by loving beings, healed and happy. I'm wishing you all the best. And I'm so sorry you had to go through this. Okay, so if you're listening, Kaylee, my heart goes out to you and Kaylee's parents. Now, I'm going to look at this guy, Ethan. Ethan is the King of Diamonds as well. And I'm wondering if his ruling card is the King of Diamonds, if Kaylee was also seeing Ethan at the time. Now, or it doesn't have to be that way. It could be that they weren't at all dating, but and this is my intuition kicking in here, because my intuition just kicks in when I look at these cards. Something happens to my third eye and I just get downloads, and I am guessing there was some sort of a love triangle going on, because I saw a lot of love triangle cards in all of their charts. So I'm going to try to put the pieces together and try to understand. If we go back in time to see if the 9 of diamonds, Kaylee, was in Ethan's chart in Venus, which would have meant they were dating or potentially liked each other in a romantic way. So I'm not seeing 100%, but I do see her 7 of spades here. So can't 100% say that they were dating. However, the 9 of diamonds is here, and that is Kaylee with the Queen of Spades on top of it, and that's November 7th. And the Queen of Spades is number 51 in the deck, a solar value, and it's in the blue hole, which is dysfunctional. And she may have actually broken up with Ethan as well, or upset Ethan on some level, because he wanted to be done, because the Queen is the great organizer of endings. So the king and the queen are both endings, but the queen organizes the ending and the king will liberate the ending. Now, the 9 of diamonds is Kaylee. I'm looking a little further, and there's a Jack of Spades here, and this is more deception here, and he would attract that because he is part of the trine of deception. So it would be he would be attracted to these things. Unfortunately, we attract what we are, and not all people born in the trine of deception are going to be deceptive. Don't get your feelings hurt in any way if you are born in that, or if you have a card of the King of Diamonds. I've met some really lovely people who had lovely parents that took their gifts and turned them into amazing people. However, if you don't get that kind of luck growing up, then the trine of deception may get the best of you. So in this case, there was some deception going on, and notice the 8 of spades under that Jack, meaning I believe he may have found out about Bryan and Kaylee. Maybe he saw a text message, or maybe he actually saw them in person, and maybe he didn't like it, or he felt he should have known, or if he was dating Kaylee, he definitely should have known and he felt deceived. So there could have been something like that going on with Ethan. Now we have the 10 of diamonds in the black hole. I don't know who that is. I think there was someone here. Yeah, it's Xana. So Xana, if I'm saying her name right, was the 10 of diamonds. And I'm wondering if he and Xana were attracted to one another after he found out that Kaylee wasn't being honest. Now, I don't want to get too much into all this nitty-gritty gossip, but I always like to know the motives. If someone's just randomly going to kill people, it's really disheartening. But if someone is killing someone because they were so provoked, then it makes more sense, although it never justifies murdering anyone. However, I do like to understand these things so that I can process it better, and maybe the whole world would process and understand this better through understanding. Through understanding, it's the sunlight of awareness, really. Once you become aware of something, it's very liberating. So I'm trying to understand why this happened, because it is so sad. Okay, now we have the 10 of hearts and the 10 of diamonds in Ethan's chart. He was with Xana a lot that week that he was murdered, or they were all murdered. And here, 2 of hearts with Xana meant that he felt that 2 of hearts soulmate connection with her. I don't know if they were intimate or if they just felt that sweetness, but I know that they were really close. Now here's Pluto, the king of spades. Pluto, it represents a higher octave of Mars, and it's that which can destroy, or it's a death-like experience, let's put it that way. And there it is, the king of spades, and that's Bryan's second ruling card. Okay, then we go to the Queen of Spades is underneath on the 13th that day with Ethan. Queen of Spades is pointing to Bryan again. Now let's go to, oh, the moon is also pointing, cosmic moon pointing to Bryan again. And there's the love triangle card. Okay, 3 of hearts is the love triangle card. Now I'm going to his birth card, his 7 of hearts. This is Ethan again. The 7 of hearts is vibrating at 7 of hearts. And there was something fishy going on, because he has a 7 of clubs in Pluto, which is the unfavorable karma card to the Jack of Spade, the one-eyed thief, and he has it long range for the whole week. And then he has the relationship card at the end of his week. So this is a love crime. Bryan's heart was involved, which is why he did this. Yeah, and there was a secret that Ethan was keeping, and I'm not sure what the secret was. Now, if we look at, because it's in the moon here, and it's also a portal and a death card or a death indicator. And the 6 of Spades is vibrating to the Jack of Spades, which is a whole system that I've cognized while I was meditating. If anyone else reads the playing cards, you might not know this formula that I'm using. It's very accurate, and I'll be writing a book on it, and I will be sharing it in the book so you can also understand it. So that 6 of Spades is also a Jack of Spades, and it's with the 6 of clubs in Jupiter. These 6s, double 6s, are very karmic. And this was a karmic week. Now there's the 8 of Spades with the King of Diamonds, right, underneath it. That 8 of Spades, remember, it's the composite between Bryan and Kaylee. That 5 of Spades is changes, big changes. So he was aware of big changes that happened. And it's also the card to rewrite your destiny. That's how big this changes is, that this change, particular 5 of Spades, all the 5s represent wind and change, but this one is the most intense one because it's a spade. Now, I'm guessing he found out from Kaylee that she didn't want anything to do with Bryan eventually. Even on this day, it might have been. So looking at, did I go to both layers? Yeah, I haven't checked to see if he has a decanate. I don't want to bore you with the details layer, but that, I think those 2 layers are telling enough that he was involved and that Bryan's cards are showing up, and the composite cards between Kaylee and Bryan are showing up. Okay, now we're looking at Madison, and let's go to Madison on the 13th. Okay, so I just had a brainstorm. 7, 8, 9, 10. So just a second here. When you add Bryan's, all of his 4 layers, all the 4 layers, except the decanate, actually. So you add his natal, his planetary ruling first one, and then you add his second one, King of Spades. So I'll cover them all again. It's the Queen of Hearts, 5 of Clubs, and the King of Spades. That comes to 4 of Diamonds, a number 30, solar value of 30. And you can see Ethan is displacing the 4 of Diamonds right here, and it's in the moon. So that's a pretty big thing, very big indicator that that is Bryan. Okay, so displacement is the drain position. It is not favorable. It means he's worried about a 4 of Diamonds person, which represents Bryan, but it represents Bryan from another life. So all these players were in another life together for sure. And I don't know who killed who in the other life, but seems like there's a reenactment going on here. And Ethan was worrying about a 4 of Diamonds person, which if you add all those solar values up, Queen of Hearts, 12, 5 of Clubs, 18, and the King of Spades is 52. You never need to add that because it's a reflector card. It just reflects whatever card it's with. So you always subtract 52 if the digits go over 52 to get the actual value. So that comes to a number 30 when you do all that. Okay, so looking at Madison, I'm going to go right to the 13th. Here it is. She had a Jack of Hearts, card of deception. The boogeyman, the white collar thief, is right there on a Mars day for her. And I'm looking to see anything that would reflect Bryan. I do see the 8 of Spades with an Ace of Hearts, which she was probably well aware that Kaylee was breaking up or had dated him or had prospectively wanted to date him. So that I say that was a breakup because the 7 of Diamonds is vibrating to the 9 of Hearts, which is a breakup card right over the composite score of the 8 of Spades. So looking a little bit more, here's the moon. Here is Bryan's decanate. So that's a reflection of him in Madison's chart. And there's so much more I could look for, but so much more math I could do to get this accurate. But I'm pretty sure this sums it up. Look at her Venus. Check this out. I had forgotten this. The 4 of Diamonds, which is Bryan's other life card, his full, when you add his full natal and his ruling, the 4 of Diamonds is right there in Madison's Venus, which governs romance and women, with Kaylee. So she had an awareness that Kaylee and Bryan were doing something. And then we look on the 13th, and there's a Queen of Diamonds here with a King of Diamonds underneath it. And that 3 of Clubs is the King of Diamonds unfavorable karma card. So she may have also perceived Bryan as that rich man, King of Diamonds, that Kaylee perceived him as. She had him in Pluto, which is where you put your significant other, girlfriend, boyfriend, wife. She had put him there in her Pluto. And now she's seeing this Queen of Hearts, Bryan, as the Queen of Diamonds, and the King of Diamonds, I told you, are sort of interchangeable. So she's well aware that, well, maybe she wasn't. I can't say she was aware that he was killing her at the time, but she was aware that he was dangerous. So it was in her orbit. Now, when we add these up, it's a 9 of Diamonds on the 14th. So the 2 of them were together. That's nice. That's really nice to know. She was with Kaylee. So Madison and Kaylee were hanging out in spirit the day after, trying to figure this out. This is the card of insight. They figured it all out together in spirit. They had each other. That's really nice. Okay, now I'm going to her planetary ruling card. And on the 13th, oh, I think we already did this, is the Jack of Hearts, which can be the Queen of Hearts because he's a male queen. So he can be a Jack, show up in the Jack clothing. All right, so no need to look at that part anymore. Now we're going to look over here at Xana. Xana, on the 13th, she had the Queen of Hearts. Hello, that's Bryan. And it's in Mars. Again, interesting, they were all the 3 so far on Mars days, which are the most violent days of the week. So there's the Death card underneath the Jack of Clubs. And under the Queen of Hearts is the 3 of Clubs. Again, that King of Diamonds, that one-eyed card that's belonging to the Tron of Deception that Kaylee perceived Bryan to be. So looking a little further at her birth card, there's the 9 of Hearts, grief, and the 7 of Diamonds, which vibrates to the 9 of Hearts. And then there's the Queen of Hearts in Venus and the King of Hearts in Venus. So that, and the King of Spades long range, this is pretty much, and the 5 of Clubs in the Moon. He's everywhere in this chart, everywhere. He has 4 layers. Here's 1, 5 of Clubs in the cosmic moon, which is superimposed over Jupiter when we want to get more information. And then we have the King of Spades, long range, which is his 2nd planetary ruling card. And then the Queen of Hearts is his natal card. And then he had a 6 of Spades. Where is that? Oh, well, the 6 of Clubs probably. So people can take the spades off or any suit off and put the club on that number. And that club represents the cerebral faculties. So I can see sometimes people have taken off a suit and put the clubs on the person when they're perceiving them as crazy. So not always, but very often. So that 6 of Spades that belongs to Bryan in his decanate ruling, number 45 solar value, is showing up in Venus. Double 6 is 6 of Diamonds underneath there too. And that is meaning that she perceives him as crazy. So maybe some rumors are going around, and the King of Diamonds is in the environment. So I believe if it's in the environment, I can't 100% say that they met physically before he killed her, but it's possible. Okay, so she grieved here, which tells me this was not a fast death. I hate to say that. She grieved quite a bit. on the 13th. She might have had to bleed out and not, maybe he didn't cut the jugulars or go into the points in the body that you can die from quickly, which would be a much more graceful way to kill someone, a much more compassionate way, but it doesn't look like it does look like she suffered a bit here, which I'm very sorry. I'm very sorry, Xana, if you're listening. My heart goes out to you, and I hope you are healing and in the highest loka of heaven. Okay, so looking at the 8 of diamonds and the 9 of spades. So 8 of diamonds is the card of power. It happens to be the stress card that belongs to Bryan, and that's a whole formula that I'm not going to get into, but every card gets a stress card, and Bryan's stress card, or anyone born on November 21st, would have an 8 of diamonds stress card. So she perceived him as very stressed out, obviously, with the 9, and the 5 of clubs is underneath his stress card, and that's his ruling card. So he's all over this place, all over. I mean, there's a king of hearts in Pluto, which is really, he's a male queen. So he can show up in Pluto, that which kills, he can show up in Pluto as the king. Okay. You can see the 8 of spades is here too. So she was well aware in two places. In two places, she was well aware that the relationship between Kaylee and Bryan was significant. All right. So, and she has Kaylee in the cosmic reward, which tells me that they were all together, the 4 of them. I hope they all went to the same loka or the same realm in heaven together. That's very comforting. And she had an open heart when she got there, by the way, the Ace of Hearts result. So it was almost so open that she was willing to forgive that quickly. It's amazing. She must have been very kind. Okay, so now if we go to, we did Madison, right? We did Kaylee, we did Ethan. I think we did them all. Now let's look at Bryan. All right, so I'm going to go to his natal, and here's Bryan. He has the king of diamonds in his Pluto the week he killed them, and that's representing the trine of deception. So, and it's around a relationship, because you see the 4 of hearts underneath it, relationship indicator or marriage indicator, some matters of the heart. Now, the Pluto, excuse me, and result cards are interchangeable. They're intertwined, I should say. They tell the story of what is the adversity of the week, and then how will I handle the adversities? Will I make lemonade out of my lemons, or will I fail the test? Well, the result was literally the composite between Kaylee and Bryan. Okay, so that's the 8 of spades. That is number 47 in the solar value system that they made together. Now, notice Bryan. We always know what's the flavor of the week by looking at the natal card and what's underneath it. See that black hole underneath it? This particular week, starting November 7th, for Bryan, he was in a black hole. And that's very derailing, destabilizing. He was not able to keep it together, because the black hole is like a riptide. It's a vortex, and it spins, and you just can't get a grip. So there is Kaylee, the 9 of diamonds. Remember Kaylee over here, 9 of diamonds? She was born on the 9 of diamonds day, June 8th, 2001. And here he places her on November 8th in Venus, 9 of diamonds with the Jack of spades. So he had some not so good intentions with her on November 8th with the Jack of spades there, something deceitful, or maybe he felt she had some malefic intention. I'm not sure, because it can go either way. This system represents unity consciousness, and it's hard to know sometimes who is the perpetrator, because it's unity here, and it takes a good reader to try to discern that. Now, and even I struggle. I'm a good reader, but boy, it's a challenge sometimes to figure out who is the perpetrator. But in this case, we know they were murdered, and he probably 99% is the perpetrator, killer. And the 3 of diamonds represents indecision and possibly a love triangle, or he may have felt that Kaylee wasn't honest about, maybe she was dating Ethan, or he might have thought that. So I'm giving you his dialogue, his inner dialogue. And Venus always represents love. So he did have affections for Kaylee. Now on the 9th, which is a Mars day, he had the 6 of Hearts, which I told you before is vibrating to the Jack of Spades. And the Jack of Spades is a solar value 51. It is the one-eyed card, and it's with the 5 of Spades. So that means he wants to do something. He wants to make a change here. He's going to make an impact. He wants to do a whole rewrite. So when you add those 2 cards up, the 6 of Hearts is solar value 6. That 5 of Spades is a solar value 44. Add 44 to 6, that's a 50. So it's a Jack of Spades on 2 levels in Mars, which is that planet of weapons and war, knives, not good. And then in Jupiter on the 10th, he had the King of Spades with the Queen of Diamonds. Now, the Queen of Diamonds is probably Kaylee. It could have been any, it could have been this other girl here, the 10 of Diamonds, Xana, because she's a diamond girl. But usually when someone perceives someone as the king or the queen of their suit, they perceive them as somewhat immature or maybe whiny or not what they thought they were. So it's the personality suit of a diamond girl, and I'm guessing it's Kaylee. So the 9 of Diamonds, he bumped her into the Queen of Diamonds. In his mind, she was acting immature, or he didn't like her way of being, or thought she was unethical. I don't know exactly, but it wasn't good. And the King of Spades can often put the kibosh on things. It's 52, which is quite like a 12th house. So it ends things. And he felt she needed to be ended. In his mind, on the 10th, he had already been planning to end whatever it was, whoever it was, as the Queen of Diamonds, which I'm guessing Kaylee. Okay, now we are going to move into the 11th and the 12th. And here's the 13th. All right, so I'm seeing a 3 of Diamonds. So the 2 of Hearts and the Ace of Diamonds, when you add them together, the 2 of Hearts is solar value 2, Ace of Diamonds 27. You add that up, you get a 29, and that's the 3 of Diamonds, and it's in his Venus right here, which represented to me a love triangle, an unethical love triangle. Not that any love triangle is ethical or unethical, it's not me to judge, but he felt diamonds represent values. So he felt this was an unethical situation, and she, being letter of the law, criminal justice mind, she should be punished. So here on the 12th, the 3 of Diamonds was sort of the hidden card, I call the subliminal card, and underneath that, it's the 6 of Hearts, which is the Jack of Spades, vibrating to the Jack of Spades. The white collar thief, shrine of deception again, and then 5 of Hearts. He was literally grieving. 5 of Hearts is that of disappointment. He felt very separated, and the Jack of Spades is the cosmic reward here. So he felt justified in doing what he did. The Jack of Spades is that white collar thief that doesn't usually get caught because they're brilliant. This time he got caught. So that was his natal. Let's look at his 5 of Clubs. This is his planetary ruling card. And on the day that he killed them, he's got the death card. So need I say more? And the 3 of Diamonds again as a result that goes and superimposes over this day, and sometimes this day, these 2 last days. So, oh, interesting. There's a Jack of Spades here and an Ace of Hearts. Okay. This Xana is quite a part as well. I wonder if he was talking a lot to Xana about Kaylee. It's quite possible, because look at Xana's cards, 10 of Diamonds, 10 of Hearts. And look, I'm looking in Bryan's astral body, his emotional body, and she's there on the 9th and the 12th with his stress card. Remember, the 8 of Diamonds is the November 21st stress card. And it means that whatever she told him stressed him out to the max. He found out something because the card of insight was there, 5 of Diamonds. He had new information that justified his wanting to punish Haley. See that 8 of spades? He really did like her. So when something like that goes to the environment, it's that which supports you. So the idea of Kaylee supported him until he found out information that he didn't like from Xana. And here's Xana right here. He's displacing Xana. Okay, displacing is the drain. All right, let's look at his second planetary ruling. The 10 of clubs is another Jack of Spades favorable karma card. So there's still Jack of Spades energy here. Jack of Spades goes to Pluto, which is what was blowing his mind the whole week. It's the mastermind. How do I commit this crime and not get caught? And it was based on a broken heart. The result is he was totally brokenhearted. And we go over here. This is the 8 of hearts. This location, the cosmic reward, can be also superimposed over the 9 of hearts. So, excuse me, that 6 of hearts sometimes turns upside down, and the 9 of hearts can turn upside down. These 6s and 9s are unstable and they can flip around. That 6 of hearts that vibrates at the Jack of Spades can also be here, like he succeeded. The Jack of Spades literally succeeded as the result in his mind. You and I wouldn't consider that a success. We would consider it horrific, but in his mind, he thought this was the right thing to do. And this 8 of spades, which flavors the 13th, it's the last card there. So it's flavoring the tone of the day on the 13th. That is a Playboy card. That's where someone's playing the field, and it's very upsetting. Obviously, no one likes that. So the information that Xana gave him, I'm guessing, is it wasn't so good. Okay, so on the 8 of spades day, and on the 13th was the 8 of spades with the favorable karma card of the 10 of the Jack of Spades, which is the 10 of clubs. So a lot of Jack of Spades deception going on here in Bryan's chart on the 13th. And this 8 of spades, hands down, represents he and Kaylee. Okay, now looking at, yeah, he was really, really disappointed. Boy, I can see how heartbroken he was. Literally, he was brought to his knees. The relationship between Kaylee and him was in his Saturn, the most challenging part of the week. So, you know, my heart goes out to anybody that has a broken heart, but really there's just no excuse for punishing. I don't believe in punishment, actually. In some cases, maybe if you're raising a child, but beyond that, it's just inconceivable. So now I'm going to go to his decannate ruling card. There's so much more that I could share with you, but I could bore you to death and you'd be here all night. I see so many other things that I have yet to have. I didn't see yesterday when I was looking at it. It's all jumping out at me now, and my lights were flickering. So I know they're here talking to me, and they're probably grateful I'm getting this information out to the world. Okay, and I'm honored to do this and help in any way. If there's anything you want me to say, help me to hear you, whoever you may be. If it's Kaylee, I don't know, but anyways, I'm here and looking at his 6 of spades ruling card, and you could see it's Kaylee again in Venus with the Jack of Spades and the Playboy card. So obviously he's very unhappy with that. And there's the love triangle card. And this is the opposite of the 2 of hearts. The 2 of hearts is that card that connects you at the heart. The soulmate card, it has a twin. There's only 2 cards that have a twin. And this twin is the ace of clubs. When that goes upside down like that, the 2 of hearts goes upside down to the ace of clubs, it means he no longer feels that sweetness at the heart level. The 2 hearts beating as one is no longer. And the 3 of hearts is taken over, which is, you know, 2's company, 3 is a crowd in his mind. Okay, so looking a little closer at this, the biggest challenge of his week and his decannate ruler was love and relationship, because the 4 of hearts is there, and that's the card of marriage and love. And there is Xana. Now, I think Xana was the one that gave him the news about the love triangle. Maybe she slipped it out, I don't know. And then here on the 12th, he had a pretty hard day. The 9 of Spades was part of the black hole. He really wanted to end it with somebody. He wanted to end the pain is what he wanted to do, because this is the great organizer, the Queen of Spades. So he was organizing a way to end this. And the 3 of Clubs underneath it tells me it was deceptive, because that's the karma card to the King of Diamonds, which is the card of deception. So he was conjuring up a malefic scheme on how to stop the bleeding. And in the moon was the 9 of Hearts. So the moon governs the emotional heart, the heart mind. And he was in deep grief around this. He really did like Kaylee. Okay, now on the 13th, there's the 2 of Diamonds. Interesting. The 2 of Diamonds vibrates to the 2 of Hearts. And you know, stabbing is quite an intimate way to kill someone. A much less intimate way would be to shoot someone or poison them and walk away. But when you're there with the knife, it's very penetrating and you are right in their face. And this is an intimate, even though it doesn't sound like the word intimate should be perceived as, but it's a crime of sometimes of a broken heart. So understand that he was really broken when he did this. And I don't have much compassion. However, of course, I have compassion for anyone with this broken heart, but what he did with this broken heart is unacceptable. So I'll leave it at that. I hope this was insightful. And I'd like to surround this whole situation with golden light. And may all the karma be resolved. And may there be peace and harmony between all these souls so they don't have to come back and do this all over again. May there be love and forgiveness. So be it. Thanks for watching.